All right, I'm going to briefly cover what change gating is, what the value proposition is of change gating, and how you can set it up in Bitbucket and Jira Service Management. So let's jump over to Bitbucket and get started. All right, so I'm going to walk you through how you can set up change gating in Bitbucket and Jira Service Management. Right now, we're in Bitbucket on the pull request screen looking at a pull request. The change for this pull request has already been deployed to our test and staging environments, and now we're ready to merge to our production environment. So we're going to approve, and then we're going to click merge, and then we're going to click merge. And this is going to kick off a pipeline that's going to deploy to our two production environments. We have one production environment that's in AWS US West 2 and another one that's in AWS US East 1. And we have change gating set up on the US West 2 change environment. So when this runs, if we go over to pipelines, we can see our pipeline kickoff. We've got steps for building, testing, and deploying our application to both of those environments. Change gating is set up on the deployment to production US West 2. So when this executes, we're going to stop and hang on the production US West 2 deployment step. And we're going to open up a change request in Jira Service Management. When we go into Jira Service Management, we can click approve. And then when that happens, the pipeline will automatically kick off and keep running. Until somebody approves it, we won't move past this step. So in this way, teams can get a couple things. First, developers can work on changing their code, implementing features, committing, pushing, cutting pull requests. And once they've cut that pull request, got it approved and merged, they are good to go. They don't have to come back to the pipeline because the change request is going to get opened. People are going to approve that, look at it, review it. And once they're happy with it, they're going to approve it. And then the pipeline will automatically kick off. So as soon as that change request is done, the developer's free to move on to the next thing. And from an organizational point of view, the organization can enforce whatever kinds of standards they want. So if the organization wants to have multiple levels of management take a look at changes before they go to production, or they have some kind of process that they run to verify that the change is ready to go to prod, that can all be enforced. And you can guarantee that it happens before anything gets deployed to your production environments. You can also set up change gating on one or all of the environments. So right now, we've got change gating set up on prod US West 2. And when it gets to prod US East 1, that deployment will happen without a change approval process kicking off. However, if you wanted, you could have a separate change approval process kick off for every repository. So I'm going to refresh this here. And now we get our change ID. So we're going to open this in a new tab. Now we move over to Jira Service Management. And from here, we can approve our change request. You could jump through and look at all the data and see the pipelines that have run and take a look at the change. After the change has been approved, if we go back to Bitbucket, we can see that the pipeline has automatically kicked off, and this is going to run to completion now. Again, if we had change gating also set up on the prod US East 1 environment, it would stop there as well. But in this case, I don't have that configured. So with that out of the way, now I'm going to show you how to set this up in Bitbucket and Jira Service Management. So the first thing we need to do is jump over to JSM. From JSM, we're going to click on Operations. And in Operations, there's this Services section. We're going to click on that. And you have to have a service set up for every repository that you want to enable change management on. So we're going to search for our JSM change. There it is. And we're going to click on this. I've already set this up. But if we click into Edit, we can see kind of the fields we need. So we need a name. We need a type, we need to set the tier. By default, you can enable change gating on tier 1 and tier 2 services, but you can configure your JSM to also do change gating on tier 3 and tier 4 if you want to do a little bit more configuration. You can set up a service owner team. This is typically the developers that build and operate the service. And you can set up a change approvers team. This is typically a different team from the service owners that are responsible for making sure the changes are correct. You can assign it to a JSM project. In this case, we're setting this to our IT operations project, and you need to choose a Bitbucket repository. So in this case, I've got JSM change gating repository selected. Once that's done, you can click Save, and now you've got a service. That's not all the configuration though. You also need to go over to your project, click on the More Actions, and choose Project Settings. On the left-hand side here, you can see Operations, and then you can see Change Management. So you need to go into Change Management and make a couple changes. All right, so in the deployments pipeline section, you have to have deployment pipelines enabled. Then you need to choose which type of environments you want to do deployment tracking on. You can enable change gating on any of the environment types you've chosen here, but this doesn't guarantee that all of the environments associated with staging and production have change gating automatically. You have to set that up on a per repository basis. Well, what this means is that staging environments will cut a change request, but it'll be automatically closed and it's purely informational. Same with production. Now, if we scroll down, you also have to go to this Bitbucket pipeline section and connect your repository here. So you can click connect service, choose your service, and then you'll be good to go. Now, once you've got this section configured, you can go back over to Bitbucket. You can go to repository settings. You can scroll down and you can go to deployments. And you set up your deployments. You've got your test environment, your staging environment, and your 2 production environments. If you pop open one of these environments, if change gating has been set up correctly, you can enable change gating for each individual environment by checking this box. This box will not be visible unless change gating is properly configured. So if you come in here before doing those steps in JSM, this just won't be visible. Now we're going to jump back over to JSM really quickly. Let's back out a little bit. Now I mentioned that you can see changes that were set up for monitoring but weren't necessarily for change approval. To do that, you want to come over to changes. You pop this open, and if we look at all changes, we don't see our change in here right now because it's already been closed. But if we go to CI/CD changes, we can see our JSM change gating here, and we've got a number of them. So in this case, we've got our 2 production environments, and we can also see our staging environment here. We don't see our test environment because the test environment was not added to the set of environments we wanted to monitor when we configured change gating, but we can see the 3 environments here. If we open up one of these in a new tab, we can see this is just a standard change type. If we go back over and we open up one of the ones for US West 2, which is where we had our change gating enabled, we can see that this is a normal change type. So they are 2 different types of changes. And in JSM, when an incident happens for this service, the software will automatically pull all the changes that have happened into a timeline view for you. So it helps you kind of understand what's changed with your service over time when you go to diagnose that issue. Okay, so we've covered what change gating is, why it's important, and how to set it up in Bitbucket and Jira Service Management. If you want to learn more about change gating, follow this QR code, and this will take you to some documentation that explains it in more details. All right.